Did I put the clothes in the dryer? I hope they don't think I was serious.
I need to be
about
awake.
Snacks. I forgot my brain
Snacks.
shut
Just
off.
sleep already.
When your racing thoughts keep you up at night, it's tough to let go and get the rest you need. Better sleep can help. You might have heard of white or brown noise, but there's a whole rainbow of color noises, and they can help you calm your mind, reduce stress, and sleep better, like the green noise you're listening to now. With the Better Sleep app, you can discover more color noises and over 200 soothing sounds, guided meditations, and bedtime stories. High-quality rest is vital to your mental well-being and physical health. Calm your restless mind, conquer your day, and sleep better at night. Download Better Sleep from the App Store or Google Play and start a 7-day trial today. Because when you sleep better, you feel better.
A BetterHelp ad. Lewis Capaldi partnered with BetterHelp to get word out about how important therapy can be.
Or I struggle most weeks to get myself up and ready and go to therapy or whatever. Even to open the laptop to talk to my therapist sometimes can be really difficult. But I do it because I realise how important it is for me to continue to feel good. 'Cause I felt the best I've felt in a long time through therapy.
Learn more about online therapy at betterhelp.com.
Welcome to the Writing Black Joy podcast, where we celebrate the joyful narratives of the Black creatives writing their names on the pages of history and on our hearts. I am your host, Sophia Robinson. Here, you'll find conversations with amazing Black creatives, learn more about their projects and the joy that they're bringing into the world, find inspiration for your own creative ventures, and dive deep into the topics that shape our narratives. The guests on this podcast are all sorts of creatives, from writers of fiction and nonfiction to playwrights and actors, visual artists, podcasters, and so much more who are bringing joy to their narratives. So, if you are a writer, a creative, or a lover of the arts, or you simply want to hear some good conversations, keep on listening and welcome to the show. And before we dive into our episode, here is another one of our lovely listeners sharing her answer from the lightning round. What is something you dread but always feels good afterwards?
This is something I dread doing, but I feel great afterwards, and it brings me joy knowing that I have done it. And that is working out. Getting up at 5 a.m. is a struggle. I don't like to do it. I think of reasons why I shouldn't get up, why I shouldn't do it, why I should skip a day. But once I do it, after I work out, I feel great. I feel energized. I can see my health improving, and it brings me joy to know that I am making this effort and doing the work.
And now, on to today's guest. Welcome back to Writing Black Joy. Thank you so much for being here and for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, or if this is your first time listening, hit subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, and share with a friend, especially those friends of yours whose love language is receiving podcast recommendations. I'd also love to hear from you. You may have noticed at the top of the episode, I featured one of my listeners answering a lightning round question. And I would love to hear your answer to any of the lightning round questions. Like, what is something you dread, but that always feels good afterwards? Or what returns you to joy? Do you have any rituals around joy? And of course, what is bringing you joy right now? If you want to leave a voice note, go over to www.writingblackjoy.com and drop me a line. I cannot wait to hear from you. Now, let's talk about this week's guest. Today's conversation is with Kelly Morgan of Bright Headed Publishing, and I had so much fun talking books, writing, and publishing with her. I cannot wait to dive into her episode, but first, a little bit about her. Kelly Morgan is an author, publisher, and the founder of Bright Headed Publishing, a platform dedicated to bold storytelling and underrepresented voices, especially from Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color communities. She's the author of Wait For It and You Sound White, and the host of The Author's Mic, a podcast that supports indie authors with real talk and practical tools. Kelly also created BTA Fridays, which is Breaking the Algorithm, a series that helps writers market their books without chasing trends or gimmicks. Her work centers truth, emotional depth, and building something powerful from the ground up, especially for storytellers who have been overlooked or underestimated. Kelly and I discussed her journey from writing to publishing and even diving into audiobooks and podcasting after she got scammed, her desire to empower writers with information around publishing, how she wrote her first book and translated the movie in her head onto the page, how she chose to write fiction from her own experiences and how this helped her to heal, the process of writing, publishing, and marketing, and some of the skills involved in these phases, her book club and the Author's Mic podcast, how she used her experience of being scammed as fuel to create her current business, her journey of writing a children's book, and her plans for the future of her publishing, as well as so much more. So here is Kelly's episode, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writing Black Joy, and today I have with me Kelly. I'm so pleased to have you with me, Kelly. Can't wait to dig into this conversation. How are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. So Kelly, you do all the things. You write and you publish and you help writers publish. So you're like at every step of the process. So let's talk a little bit about that journey. How did you come to writing, but also to that publishing process and to helping others publish with your work?
So I always wanted to be a published author, right? I didn't really know how to go about it, but as the internet was introduced and technology, somebody had told me about publishing a book and then, pitching publishers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. I wrote a book. I wrote the manuscript, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started pitching publishers. So when I'm online looking, I'm looking for where do I find publishers and how do I pitch publishers and agents. I don't know anything about publishing myself. That didn't even occur to me at the time, right? I'm thinking you don't publish yourself. Somebody does this for you. So I got a lot of no's. And I got this one yes, right? I got this one yes, and I was so happy. And this guy's like, yep, your book is great. Let's go ahead and do it. And we're going to do all these things. You're going to go on book tour and we're going to do it. He just, started rattling off all these things that we were going to do and really kind of gaslighted me. And then at the end of all of that, and they even helped me like find a cover and an editor. And then one day he's like, okay, Kelly, well, we're ready to really push. And so how many books are you going to buy? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, don't you buy the books? He's like, well, I've invested in everything else. You just need, $700, invest in the books. And so I did. Because he basically said, are you going to let $700 stop you from your dream type of thing? And I'm like, oh, no, never, right? So I ponied up the $700. And shortly after that, he just ghosted me, crickets. So I never got any books and I never heard from this guy, but he did publish the book. It was published on his platform on Amazon. So I basically lost my book. He had it. There's nothing I could do. He had the book. And it stayed that way for a very long time because I just felt kind of defeated. And I was ashamed. I didn't tell anybody anything because I had talked such a big game about being published, right? That I couldn't bring myself to tell people that I had just gotten scammed. So I didn't say anything. I was so ashamed. And it stayed that way for a very long time. So if people bought the book, I had no clue. And then one day I talked to a literary attorney because I had reached out to literary attorneys and they're like, you're a nobody. Nobody's going to, what? You're who? And one guy's like, look, send a letter, cease and desist, and, go to the Better Business Bureau. Here's what to say. He emailed it, said, say this. And I did. And shortly after, my book was released. And I had the book back. This was like maybe, 6 months, 7 months later, right? I had the book back. But I still didn't know what to do. So then I decided I was going to self-publish. But I didn't want to publish as Kelly. I wanted to publish as a publisher, right? And so then I started Bright-Headed Publishing, and I published my first book. And I started a podcast. And I started speaking to other authors like you, but that's all that I did. So I wasn't doing anything but doing that. It became so overwhelming that I did that for like a year and I just couldn't do it anymore. It was all consuming. It was like having another full-time job. Although I really enjoyed helping people, as you know, running a podcast can become a full-time job.
If you let it, it will. I definitely feel that because, every time I think to myself, like I tell people my podcast is seasonal because that is what I have the capacity for. And because I've done it seasonally, I am probably over 50 episodes now. It's been going for almost 4 years. I'm sure that if I had tried to do it every week, I would have stopped years ago. So I definitely know what you mean. It's a lot of work. It's a labor of love. If it's not paying your bills, which,
Right. It's not paying your bills. You're doing all the work, and it's gratifying that you're helping people and people are very grateful, but it for you, it's very taxing. So I stopped again, right? I stopped, COVID came, we ate our feelings, gained a bunch of weight. Then I wrote my second book, wait for it. Right. And then I decided that I was going to do an audiobook because that's something that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to come back with Bright-Headed Publishing, but I always wanted to come back smarter, right? And really figure out a better way to help people than just a podcast, right? It's like I went about it all the wrong way and good intentions, but not good strategy the first time around. So the second time around, this time that I'm doing now, I have relaunched. I've now published 2 books of my own. And I have a little mini podcast. It's like 10 minutes. But then I also am, my podcast is more about giving tips and tricks and how to navigate the indie publishing world and information that's out there that's free that can help you publish your book that people might put behind a paywall, which irritates me. I don't like when people pay for free information. You just don't know where to go to get it, right? You just don't know.
And there's a lot of information out there. And as you found
kind of
with the guy that you meet with, there's misinformation, right? That's what irritates me. One of my season 1 guests, Sharice Wiltshire. Hey, Sharice, if you're listening, she had a sort of a situation which we talked about on her episode as well, because like you, she paid a publisher a lot more than $700, and it did not necessarily deliver on the things that she thought that they would have delivered on. And, they were going to do a cover. She ended up having the cover done herself. All of these things. We talked about it in that episode. Believe you can find it on YouTube. I don't think it's made it to the podcast feed, but it's on YouTube for sure. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. This is why I struggle sometimes with Googling stuff, and people say, just Google it. I'm like, listen, there's a whole bunch of nonsense out there. Like,
right.
I mean, that's part of the reason why I like to have these conversations on the podcast with people who've actually gone through the experience, because I feel like it's very easy to look at a website and not even know. Like, I mean, when I first started, because like you, I didn't even go down the road of trying to be traditionally published. I was in Barbados at the time. And in my head, that was for people who lived in America or the UK or whatever. Like, it never even really occurred to me that I could get an agent. And the funny thing is, now, sort of 8, 9 years later, 10 years later, there are more Caribbean authors that are getting those international contracts. But then it was actually quite unusual. So I didn't even know anyone who I could think who had done it. And the couple of people who had done it were writing literary fiction, those types of genres, Caribbean literature, that type of thing. And I did not write anything like that at all. So I wasn't even bothering. And I went to a conference and there were people there who had self-published. And I was like, ooh, what's this? Self-publishing? This sounds awesome. I'm going to do that. And so I just did. I didn't even, like you talk about doing a publishing company, and I have had some other guests who've done it. I just published it myself. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, once I started doing the research and realized like what a hybrid was and what a traditional was and what an independent is and all of the things that I did, and a lot of the stuff I learned from doing the podcast, from just talking to other authors and learning from their experiences, right?
But
and so then I thought, okay, I'm going to take all of this knowledge and I'm going to put it together in a guide. And I have it on my website and you can just download it. It's free because all the information is free anyway. But it doesn't tell you how to write the book, but it tells you what you need to know. Like, how are you going to publish the book? If you need an ISBN, what that looks like, different platforms, if you're going to edit, all the things that you don't know if you've never done this before, that people could charge you for, that's free. And here's where to go to get it. So I'm really big about that. I'm big about getting your words out there without breaking the bank, right? Everybody has a story. Everybody has, should get their words out there. But more importantly, I'm all about building your own table. Because there's a lot of tables that are built that just weren't built for me. And if I want to get my words out there and have my voice be heard, I have to build my own table. I've came to that conclusion, right? So I decided to build my own table and invite others to come sit at the table. You don't have to wait for others to make an impact. You don't have to wait for others to be seen or to be heard. You can get out there and make an impact, even if it's just one person, even if your email list is just 5 people. You can start somewhere. Everybody started from 1 or none.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's such a good point. So, since obviously you've written some books and you published some books, so let's start by talking about the writing process. So, have you always written, and how did that translate to then writing a book, that first book?
So the first time I wrote a book, it was just a story that I had in my head. Because I'd always wanted to be a writer, right? Like I wanted to write, but I always thought I would write like screenplays. And because everything that when I see a story, it just plays out in my head like a movie, right? So that's kind of my writing process. My characters will just take on a life of their own. So when I write, I have to keep up with what's playing out in my head. The dialogue and everything is just playing out like a movie. So somebody had told me a long time ago, just write what you know. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm going to write, what do I know? And I thought, well, God, people have always told me that I sound white. I think I'll write a book. I'm going to call it You Sound White. And it's going to be about a character who has to deal with being told that, and different characters and how they maneuver through life with this thing about how they're judged before they even open their mouth. And when they do open their mouth, the expectation is not what people thought it was going to be, and living up to what people think you are based on what you are, showing up unapologetically, right? And so it's fiction. But there's a lot of things that happen to the character happen to me. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. And if you're familiar with the States, Salt Lake City, Utah is probably 80% white. When I went to elementary school, it was all white. Probably more than that. When I went to elementary school, everybody in my elementary school was white, except for me and my sister. Right? So, just the way that we were raised, my vernacular, I've talked to people on the phone and then they've met me and be like, oh, I thought you were white. Or I'll get the reverse and they'll say stuff like, oh, you are so well, so you speak so well. Yeah, thank you so well. Oh, you articulate so well, as if I shouldn't, right? As if that's a feat. Right? So things like that, being kind of like the ambassador for all the white people because you're the one Black person that they know, right? So now they're asking you, so you're speaking for all Black people, and Black people aren't all the same. I can't speak for everybody, but you're the ambassador, or you're what they see in TV and movies because that's the only representation they have of people of color. Right? So when you grow up in that type of environment, and the really sad thing is, honestly, is that the white people will never let you forget that you are Black, okay? No matter what you sound like, you are Black. But then to the Black people, you sound white. So you must be white. You're not, thank you. You're not Black enough. You're not acting Black. You're not sounding Black, nor are you doing Black things, whatever that is. And that is just something that has just always been part of me growing up where I grew up. And that's how that book came into being. It's fiction, but a lot of the things that happen to the character happened to me, right? And just, just trying to navigate and figure out where I belong and being unapologetic for who I am. At the end of the day, this is who I am. Like, like it, love it.
You can't hide
right?
it.
This is what it is.
This is it, right? I was talking to one of my colleagues, and I have a work colleague who, we were talking about the things that people say to you, and I was like, yeah, but I can't hide who I am, right? So it doesn't make any sense trying. I can't hide who I am, so I don't even try.
I'm not going to apologize for how I sound or whatever. And I remember, like, when we moved from the West Coast to the South, I remember my daughter was in high school and she went to school and she grew up in Salt Lake City sounding like me. And so when we dropped in on the South, they were like, whoa, like, she came home. She's like, they make fun of me. They say I'm white. I'm like, but don't dumb it down for anybody. Don't dumb it down. I know it's easy because you want to fit in. I get it. I get it. But, those are just very real. So that's where You Sound White came from. And because I'm somebody who writes from their pain, right? And so I've always been somebody my entire life that's always dealt with their weight and body image, right? Going back and forth, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, trying every fad diet that's out there and whatever, just this whole body image thing just sucks. And so at my heaviest, probably around 270, 275, I wrote Wait For It. And Wait For It is not about the before or after of weight loss. It is about everything that happens during that period in which you are really struggling and trying to lose weight, and how fanatical one can be in their weight loss journey. Because I can, and when I wrote it as a third person. So it was really weird to write it and then read it and be like, man, this character's got some real body image issues, and realize that, man, that's you. But to be able to write it and to read it helped me be able to change it and heal. So it was really therapeutic for me to write Wait For It and to put it out there. When I put it out there because that's just it. That book is fiction, but that book is my love letter to myself. Mm-hmm. And I put it out there because I thought maybe somebody can relate to what this character's going through in her journey for what she believes to be the perfect body, which is what society tells her what the perfect body is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I just always find it fascinating when people talk about fiction, right? Because I think fiction can be so impactful, but I also think fiction is so full of truth, right? Like, people think fiction is made up and nonfiction is like the real thing. Well, I'm like, listen, if a fiction is done well, it is as full of truth as a nonfiction. And I think it allows you to explore topics sometimes in a way that you actually might not be able to in a nonfiction. But also, I think people accept things in a different way when something is fiction. Their walls are down. Their walls can go up. If it's a nonfiction, to me, their walls are kind of down when it's fiction, and they're more able to accept certain things.
Yeah, I think you get the opportunity to use your imagination in a fiction book. So Wait For It was that labor of love to myself, me in my fanatical journey. Because I don't know about anybody else, but and even to this day, when I was really out there being fanatical in my weight loss journey, the scale would talk to me. And the things that the scale would say to me were not kind at all. So in the book, the scale talks to her. It's up to you to decide if it's her or the scale or where this is coming from. But she is having full-blown conversations every time she steps on the scale. It's judgment. It's everything. It's all the baggage. It's all the stuff that we just don't talk about, right? Yeah. We just don't talk about this stuff, right? You always see the before. Oh, I was heavy. I was this. I was that. And then I did this. And now I'm this, right? But everything that happened in the middle, all the times you stopped, all the times you think you failed or whatever, we don't see those parts. So that's what I write about. That's what I wrote about. because that was the healing for me. And then I did the audiobook for Wait For It as well.
And let's talk about that a little bit. So the audiobook, did you self-publish that as well? I don't think I've ever had a guest who self-published an audiobook.
I did. I always wanted to do an audiobook. You know, when I was doing my podcast, a lot of the people that I would talk to had talked about doing their audiobook.
Mhm.
And they had done it themselves. And so I had looked into doing it myself. And I even tried at one point to record the book by myself using Audacity. And it didn't sound good. The quality wasn't good. It was a lot of work. There's a lot of ums and clicks. And you do a lot when you're recording yourself that you don't realize when you're reading a book, you know, and you hear all these noises, and it was right. So I'm like, you know what? I thought, well, I'll wait. So then I waited and waited and waited. And I put it on Amazon, and Wait For It sat on Amazon for like 2 years and did nothing. I didn't promote it. It just sat there because it has to be on the Audible site, right? It has to be published on Amazon. And then I thought, well, then all of a sudden AI starts coming out, right? So I thought, well, maybe I'll do AI where I could record my voice and then it could read it, because there's programs that do that, but it didn't sound right? Because then I thought, well, I could do different voices for the characters, and I had all this great idea, but it didn't sound right. It sounded like AI. It sounded robotish. I didn't like it. So I didn't do it. So then finally I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to record it myself. So I found a studio here where I live, not far, a woman-owned studio, and she said she'd help me record the book, and she did. We did it over maybe about 3 months, maybe 2.5 months in her studio. So it was a professional recording. That way she could kind of edit out the clicks and the ums. She could give me direction. We could re-record, and so she helped me put it together, gave me all the files. Obviously I paid for the recording time. It wasn't cheap. So it's kind of another reason why it took so long, because we kind of did it in batches so I could pay for it, right? And she did cut me a rate. And I just figured it was an investment into myself. It was something that I always wanted to do. And so I did it. So it's out there. It's on Audible. It's on Spotify. I think it's on Apple. So yeah, the book is out there on audio. You can get it. I've never listened to it, although I have all the masters. Because I listened to it as we recorded it. I listened to it so many times, but I've never listened to it out like on a platform. And I don't know if anybody has or not. I have no idea. I just, it's out there, and it's just something I always wanted to do. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that. Years ago, I wrote a book, which I self-published. It's out there on Amazon. But before I self-published it to be a physical book, which I did last year, I had it as an ebook. And I recorded the audio the same way I was recording my podcast. And people could just buy it on my website, and I just send them the files. I wasn't even going to try and put it out there on Audible. I was just not about that. But I had a few people bought it, mostly friends. Thanks, friends. And did they ever listen to it? I have no idea. But a couple of people have read the physical books since I got copies. It's one of those things, and I think that it's a thing that I have found in my own journey of writing books and publishing, is that there's almost 3 distinct phases that require different skills. Writing a book is one thing.
Mhm.
Publishing is another thing. And marketing and selling is a third thing. Right?
I knew you were going to say that. And that's the hard part.
So you see, you say that's the hard part. I think it is hard if that is not your skill set. I know people who could market and sell a book, but they ain't writing no book because they think that writing the book is the hard part. The reason that we don't think writing the book is the hard part, it could be like writing, and we could write, and I actually think anyone can write, as in anyone can learn how to write and learn how to write well. But I know that I'm at an advantage because I've always enjoyed it. For years, I was able to put those reps in. So that by the time I came to write a book, I felt like, oh, this is easy, you know, and I don't have any experience, but I've been writing since I was a child in one form or another. So I think that's why I find that part easy. Marketing and sales is not my skill set. Could I learn to do it? Absolutely. I don't know if I want to, but it is just to
Right. But, you know, a lot of authors don't think about that when they are thinking about their book, right? Because a lot of them that I talk to are like, you know, they're like, okay, I wrote the book, I formatted it, I got a cover, I published it, it's on Amazon. Royalties are going to start to roll in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you could put it on Amazon and it's just simply on Amazon.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't even know where to begin to even remotely, you know, how do I even, besides my friends and my family, how do I let people know this book is there? And just because you put it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform doesn't mean anything.
No.
Right. So
the other thing I would say, though, is that I think, as you said, a lot of people who are writers who can write or who will write a book, they don't even understand that that is part of the process. Even if you have a traditional publisher.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Thing that you have to do. I mean, it's so hard. I think it's hard to understand that. That's why I said that there are three separate things. Because writing a book is writing a book. Publishing a book is different. It's a different, like if it took me 3 or 4 months to write my book, it took me a year to publish it. It was a whole different process. Then I started to put it into a physical format, and the person who was doing the layout for me is asking me about what size margins I want and font, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, just put my book. What are you asking me for foolishness? Like, I had never even comprehended that, but I've seen people who have written a decent book that's been so hard to read because it wasn't formatted properly. And so it is a skill set that you either have to have or know that you need to pay somebody for, or you will not get a product that is going to have the same level of impact. But then you got to put it out there. You got to market, you got to sell, and that requires its own skill set.
Yeah. And then you think, who's your audience? I always ask people, like, you know, when you wrote the book, like, what was your intent? You know, some people have to really kind of think about why I even wrote the book. Did I write it for book sales? Did I write it just because I wanted to put my words out there? Did I write it because of whatever? Who's your audience? Some people write a book and they're marketing, but they don't even know who their audience is. So you're just putting it out on your Instagram page, hoping that the right person sees it and clicks and they then somehow go buy your book.
Yeah. And what I find difficult about that is if I'm writing a book, I absolutely cannot think about the audience, or I couldn't write it. When I write a book, I have to cut out the noise. I can't think about who's going to read it or I can't think about those things because it stresses me out and I can't write. But you must know those things when you're ready to market it, right? But also, I think the reason why people write books change. I have a really good friend who's in the process of going out to agents now. And I don't think that when she started writing this book, she thought that she was going to be having agents and all of that. I think she just wanted to write it. But then after she wrote it, she was like, I really enjoyed that. It was really good. Some people read it. They were like, it's really good. And now she's like, actually, I want to put it out there. So I think it's also okay to change your mind, but understand the consequence is that if you want to put it out there, you now have to learn some stuff, right? You're going to may have to learn a skill set that is not the writing that will then allow you to take that next step.
Right. And then, you know, you're also going to have to kind of be flexible. It's okay to pivot, right? If what you're doing isn't working, it's not a failure. It's a lesson learned, because we're all learning how to, you know, market our book and what works. And you're right. When you're writing the book, when I wrote either one of the book, who the audience was did not really occur to me.
Nope.
It was just me putting these stories on paper. But then one day somebody said, well, who when you're marketing, who's your audience? And I was like, oh God, that's a good question. So I had to really think about it so that I could market it. Even if you want to just put out an ad, they still are asking you,
I want to know.
who's your target? So you have to
Yeah.
have an idea about that when it comes to the marketing of the book. And you also have to think about how much are you willing to spend and invest in marketing of said book. What are you willing to do? There's a lot of free stuff you can do. There's a lot of non-free stuff you can do. But do you know what to do? And there's a lot of people out there who are predators who will take your marketing budget and simply just take it. You know what I mean? And you'll get nothing in return. So you have to be really careful and do your research in all phases of the process. And I did not know when I started in this industry, I did not realize that there were people actually out there preying on you, taking your money and giving you nothing in return. I was blown away. It just never occurred to me that somebody would do that. And the more and more that I, talked to other people and did my research, the more that I realized that it's very prevalent. So you really have to be vigilant. And even to this day, I get a lot of people that will hit me up, on social media and, want me to, purchase this or use them for this or that. And you have to do research on everybody. You can't just, because they all make really great promises. I had one person tell me they guaranteed me like a certain dollar amount in sales. And I'm like, how can you guarantee me a certain dollar amount? What do you do to do that? And they could never answer me, but they told me, just pay me and then you'll find out, just pay and you'll find out how.
Yeah, no thanks. But thanks for reaching out, and it is
right.
Really
yeah.
hard. It's tough out there. But also I think it's good to have, like, obviously you have your show and then I've got episodes in the last couple of seasons where I have spoken to people who have gone through various processes. I think must have been season 2 where I spoke to some editors. Like, I try to bring that information along with the tips that you can get just from hearing creatives that are putting their work out there, whether it's a book. This season I've got some theater performers, etc. So yeah, it varies. It varies what type of writing you do, there's always going to be that level of research that you need, right?
Yeah.
So
it's just really important. And then it's really important too that, when you write your book and you're going to get it out there, you've got to be prepared to probably invest a little bit of money. You're going to have to invest something, right? Either it's going to be somebody who's going to do your cover for you or somebody who's going to edit it for you. You should have somebody else look at that book and edit it for you. But you don't have to break the bank. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get your words out there. And that's kind of my brand. And it's so funny. I heard you on another podcast. It was Writing Why Black. And it was so funny because I listened to you and a couple other episodes, and it's just so nice and refreshing to hear that we all really have the same message, helping others get their words out there, letting you know that you can, and people are out there and they hear you and we see you and we want to support you and we want to help you. And when I was listening, I thought, man, we're all saying the same thing, which just gave me confirmation, right? That we're all on the right track, right? We're all out here supporting one another, bringing this message. And it made me smile because I'm like, man. And it's cool because we're all out there reaching different people because, the same thing said a different way might resonate with somebody else, right? Same thing. We're all saying the same thing. But we're all saying it in a different way. And it gets to resonate with a bunch of people. It just amplifies the message.
It definitely magnifies and amplifies that message. So tell us a little bit then, what was your proudest moment of this process? Or a proud moment? You never ask people for the proudest. They're always like, just one. So let's have one or two.
I think the proudest moment for me was being able to, number one, admit that this guy had taken my book, admit it without any shame, right? Getting over that shame was a big step for me, because that gave me the fuel that I needed to come back with the publishing company. And I found that there was actually power in my story. The funny thing is to this day, I thank that guy, because if he wouldn't have done what he done, I wouldn't be here now. That's a very proud moment for me to, like, you know what? I'm going to take this story and I'm going to flip the script, and I'm going to, come out even better. That to me was the proudest moment. And then just being able to come back, pivot and come back with no shame, unapologetically. Yeah, and I've been doing this since 2025 is when I relaunched again. It took a minute, had to kind of really strategize, but this time it feels different. I'm very proud of what I've built in a very short period of time, because not only do I have the books and the publishing company, I've got the Author's Mic, which is a little mini podcast. And then I've also started the book club, which is the IRS, right? The Indie Reader Society. And the book club was really to help give authors another way to promote their books, right? If you've never pitched, book clubs can be hard to get into. If you may not even thought about a book club, right? But there's tons of book clubs out there. But I thought, you know what? Let me just, again, I'm tired of asking for a seat at the table. I'm going to build my own book club, and then I'll invite other indie authors. We'll encourage authors to pitch us. And it's just another way to help you promote your book. It's free, for you to promote. It's free to you to join. Yeah. And so, it's just another thing that I've done. The Author's Mic is another way for authors to get out there and promote themselves. And, when you come onto the Author's Mic, the mic's yours. I'm just sitting here. I'm just here listening, because it's your time, your platform. It's just another way to build the indie community to help us. We're underrepresented voices. So how do we get our words out there? We don't ask for a seat at the table. We build our own. And then we invite others to join us.
Yeah. And I love that. I love the collaborations. I love the indie book club. We'll talk a little bit about those things, a little bit more about those things towards the end. But just a couple more questions. One is, what's next? So, is in terms of your writing, I obviously I know a little bit about this because we chatted about this last time we chatted. But what are you working on next in terms of your writing?
All right. So somebody asked me, and I have a lot of people ask me this, like, what's your genre? And I truly do not have one. I just write what I know, right? I just write, again, what I know. So now I'm working on a children's book, because somebody always told me I should write children's books or children's songs, because I sing everything. If you know me, you know that most of my time is spent singing. And so I've had this idea for a children's book, and I'm a gardener. So I took those two concepts and I put them together. So me being a master gardener and then wanting to do a children's book. Yeah. So I got a book called Sunny's Garden that I'm working on. It's actually going to be a series of books. So, I've got the book down. I've got the words down, right? Just working on the illustrations, because I've never done a children's book and I'm no artist at all, right? I'm not an artist. Just finding the illustrations. I told you when I write, it plays out in my head like a movie. Yeah. Sunny's Garden, because it's a children's book, it played out in my head like a cartoon. Right. So I have an idea of what I want the characters to look like just from the cartoon that I have in my head. Right. It just played out like a cartoon. And so just working with an illustrator and being able to take that and put it on paper is a lot more difficult than I ever thought it would be. Yeah. But my goal is to have this book out by the beginning of 2026, and then come with a series, like I want it to be a series of 4 to 5 books. So that's what I'm working on next.
Yeah. And I love two things. One, I don't do genres either. So I don't think I would ever ask anyone that, because I can't be doing with that. Like I tell people, like, I wrote a book about wellness for healthcare professionals. I wrote a romance, not like, I write blogs. Like, I don't care. I write whatever I feel like writing. So I'm not too fussed about the genre thing. But I also, when you talk about having that cartoon playing out in your head and then you're putting it here. I am reminded of doing the cover to any of the books that I've done. And in the end, all of the people that did the covers for me were people who knew me, because what happened was to translate an image to someone and for them to then hear it and have the same thing on paper that you had in your head is actually another skill in and of itself.
So difficult. So
And if you
difficult. Yes.
don't realize it until you're actually trying to do it. And so I think, one of the things I've been trying since I started this podcast, I wanted to get an illustrator on here. It hasn't happened yet, but if anybody knows of any awesome Black illustrators, point them my way, because I want to talk about that whole process of translating someone's ideas onto the page. Because
And
I
they're
think
so creative in a different way, right? So, I mean, I'm like I said, I got the words, but the book will not work without pictures, right? It must have pictures. It must have illustrations. And so for me to be able to take what I'm seeing and to, number one, to slow it down, because now I got to take a frame and take that frame and put it on a page. Where when I'm writing a story, I don't have to do that. I can just write what I see, and but this is different. So it's been a completely different process, but it's been fun because I'm like, man, this children's book stuff is not easy. It seems, because you're like, that's a children's book. How hard could it be? Yeah, it's so difficult. So that is kind of where we are in the process right now, is actually putting what's in my head on paper and then having it look like I think it should look, right? But then also leaning on the illustrator's expertise, right? You're the expert. I have no idea, right? So kind of leaning on their expertise and having them help me put this to life is just incredibly fun as well, because I've learned a lot from their point of view, and kind of just a whole nother process. Because I'm not an artist. I draw stick people. That's about as far as my artist craft goes when it comes to drawing. I am no artist.
Yeah, I draw smiley faces, so I can't help you. But let's talk a little bit about where the audience can find you. So earlier, of course, you mentioned the Indie Book Club. You've got your video series, your little mini podcast, all the things. So let's talk about the different ways that you are connecting with indie writers. Let's start with your mini podcast, which I think is a video series, isn't it?
Yeah, so the mini podcast is called The Author's Mic. And so I wanted to do a podcast without doing a podcast, right? So I thought, well, if I keep it small, if I keep it quick, 10, 15 minutes. And so when I first started, it was just me giving tips and tricks. I think even one episode I gave affirmations and just, me out there just kind of telling you, do this if you want to do that. And I'm doing a series right now. It's called Break from the Algorithm. Things that we can do outside the algorithm. Don't become a slave to the social media, because there's a lot of other things you could be doing. Things like that. And then I invite authors or creatives. So you don't have to be an author. You could be, like you said, an illustrator, an editor, a creative, an agent, a publisher. It doesn't matter. You can come on and, the mic is yours. We can talk about, if you want me to have a conversation, we can do that. Some people have come on and just read their story or read their poetry. You can do that. You can do whatever. It's your time. And so that is just another way to promote. That comes out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's on Spotify, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And then I have the IRS, which is the Indie Reader Society. That is on bookclubs.com. So that's where all the information is for that. So if you go to bookclubs.com and look up Indie Reader Society, INDIE, you can join the book club. Right now we're reading my book, wait for it. But after we're done, the club will choose the next book. So if you're an author, you're more than welcome to pitch the book club, and then we'll choose one. And I'm hoping that we can read, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 7 books a year, and really help authors get their books into readers that they maybe would have never have thought about, and help us cross promote and, just really just figure out a way to build the community. So I thought a book club was a great way to do it. So people are more than welcome to join that as a reader or as an author. So I got that going on as well. Right. And then I've been doing just a lot of podcasts myself. So I've done a couple summits, podcast, really out there just promoting the brand. The goal, the plan, I should say, is by 2026, I really want to open it up and start to accept other authors and help them get their work published. So right now I'm just working on building the infrastructure. I could help somebody get published now, but I want to be able to offer somebody a very robust program. And it's not so much the publishing, but it's all the other stuff afterwards, right? So really helping you have a plan to launch your book so that you can be successful in whatever that looks like for you, but at least give you a plan, right? So that you're just not out here doing whatever. And I want to be able to offer somebody a really good return on their investment, because I understand you work hard for your money. And if you give your money to somebody, you want something in return. I want to be able to give you a return. So instead of me just jumping out here, I've actually just been working on building the infrastructure so it can be solid, so that when I do start to charge for my services, I feel like it will be solid, worth it, and I feel confident that I'm offering you a solid product. So 2026 is January 1. That's the goal. But right now I'm just building the infrastructure.
Fantastic. So we will drop links for people if they want to follow you along with you, so that when you hit the ground in 2026, if by then some of the listeners might have been coming to the end of that manuscript and looking for someone.
But in the meantime, there's a lot of free information. I have a link tree, and there's a lot of free information. So there's templates on how to pitch a podcast, templates on how to do a media kit, how to, so you want to write a book, all free content. All you gotta do is just go to the website and download it. There's no, it's not behind a paywall. I don't want anything. I'm just trying to help you, kind of figure things out. And, a lot of times for me, if somebody would have just given me a template, that I can kind of build on it from there, but I just don't know where to get started. So it's nice to have a visual. So that's kind of what I'm trying to provide.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. So before we wrap up, I've got a little lightning round, as I do with all of my guests now. And so I always say 5 minutes and then it goes over that. So now I've started saying it's going to be 3 minutes. We pop that on the clock and we go with the questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. What is bringing you joy right now?
Ooh, what brings me joy? Just daily, just waking up and just knowing that I am really doing something to help other people. Helping other people makes me happy. So that gives me joy every day.
Fantastic. Something you want to try for fun?
I want to go to the Maldives. I've always wanted to go to the Maldives. I've never been to the Maldives. I want to go. So if anybody wants to take me, I'm packing. I got a passport. Let's go.
Absolutely. I'll drop Kelly's info in the chat. She's a bunch of fun, so you'll enjoy that immensely. All right. So have you got any daily joy practices, anything that you do to cultivate joy?
Yes, I meditate daily. So before I even step my feet on the floor when I wake up, I meditate. And I do yoga probably about 5 days a week. And I'm a gardener. I'm an avid gardener. So connecting with the earth and the soil just makes me feel better. So those are 3 things that I try to do. Now I live in Colorado, so the gardening thing isn't daily. So I have a lot of indoor plants too for the wintertime. But in the summertime, the minute I'm able, I'm outside. I'm gardening. I'm definitely in the garden.
Yeah. I'm always a bit jealous of gardeners because I don't, people say they have a green thumb or a brown thumb. I don't even have a thumb. Not good with the plant.
No thumb.
No thumb to the plant. I have a very good friend who's very good at it. My sister is good at it, but me, no, I'm not much with the plant. So I take my hat off to you as a gardener. And I'm gonna say what returns you to joy, but I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say.
What returns me to joy, honestly, like all the things I just said, right? And just being out here, just, I will tell you that it's sometimes when you're out here doing the indie thing or whatever, sometimes it's silent. Sometimes you don't hear a lot, sometimes you're thinking, man, is anybody even listening? Is this worth it? Like, am I doing anything? Am I making any type of an impact to anybody? Like, or should I stop? And then the minute that I think that, I'll get that one person that will be like, you know what, Kelly, you really inspired me to blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, okay, all right, I will keep going. So,
Going.
I don't do it for the likes and the views, but I do hope that what I do does resonates and helps somebody. That's what I truly hope for.
Excellent. What is a quote that represents or brings you joy?
Oh, the one quote that I always have, it's on my email, is the one by Maya Angelou that says, you will always forget what people say. You might even forget what people do, but you will always remember how people made you feel.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that one. Something that always makes you laugh.
Oh my God, something that always makes me laugh. Oh God, I don't know. I laugh all the time. I do. I am just a jokester. So it doesn't take much to make me to things that make me laugh. I do love a good comedy, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much. I would say my grandson, that's my partner in crime. Yeah, I would have to go with him. He's the one that's always, kids say some off the wall stuff. So they're fun to be with, man. They have no filter. They are fun.
Wild. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. And last but not least, what is something that you dread, but that always makes you feel good afterwards?
You know what? I gotta say, it's exercise. You know what? I exercise daily, but I'm telling you that the act of sometimes getting there is sometimes rough, but once I actually start doing it, I'm in it, right? But sometimes I'm sitting here being like, I don't feel like it today. I'm dreading this workout. But then once I actually start it, I'm in it. So the act of, and I work out on a daily, so it's a part of who I am. But man, there's a voice in my head that says, you could just sit here and drink this coffee.
I love it. I love it. You're not the first person who said that to me. You're not going to be the last. This has been an awesome conversation, Kelly. It's been a while in the making, but we managed to get here with it. And I can't wait for future collabs and future hearing about what happens with Bright-Headed Publishing.
Well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to come on the author's mic.
I'd love that.
There's no reason why you cannot be my guest. Come on, talk about whatever you'd like. We could talk about your books. I'd love to hear more about them. We could talk about your journey, what you're doing. We could talk about the podcast. There's lots of things we could talk about. So the invitation's out there. Like everybody else, go to my link tree, fill out the form, and let's make it happen, because you're more than invited to come. I would love to have that conversation with you.
Fantastic. Well, I can't wait, folks. Check me out on the author's mic. All right. Kelly, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. So much, listeners. I appreciate you. I'll speak to you soon, and take care. Thank you for joining us today. You can find out more about our guests in the show notes below. And don't forget to hit subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, I send you big love.
Did I put the clothes in the dryer? I hope they don't think I was serious. I need to be awake. Snacks. I forgot my brain shut off. Just sleep already.
When your racing thoughts keep you up at night, it's tough to let go and get the rest you need. Better sleep can help. You might have heard of white or brown noise, but there's a whole rainbow of color noises, and they can help you calm your mind, reduce stress, and sleep better, like the green noise you're listening to now. With the Better Sleep app, you can discover more color noises and over 200 soothing sounds, guided meditations, and bedtime stories. High-quality rest is vital to your mental well-being and physical health. calm your restless mind, conquer your day, and sleep better at night. Download Better Sleep from the App Store or Google Play and start a 7-day trial today. Because when you sleep better, you feel better.